The Galactic Council's Challenge. The Galactic Council chamber was vast and imposing, a circular room filled with alien delegates from every corner of the known galaxy. Towering figures with glowing eyes sat beside small, insect-like beings that chittered softly among themselves. The air hummed with quiet conversation as the council prepared to discuss matters of great importance. At the far end of the chamber, a tall alien with silver skin and elongated features stood to speak. His name was High Chancellor Vorin, and his voice echoed with authority. "Let us proceed to the next item on today's agenda," Vorin announced. His gaze shifted toward the human delegation, seated quietly near the edge of the room. A faint smirk tugged at his lips. The matter of Earth's application to join the Advanced Starship League. A ripple of laughter spread through the room. The Advanced Starship League was an elite division of the Galactic Council, reserved only for civilizations capable of constructing starships that met the highest technological standards. Humanity, a relatively new species in the galactic community, had long been considered ambitious but unremarkable. A deep, rumbling voice rose from one of the larger aliens. "Humans? In the Advanced League, their ships can barely outrun a cargo freighter." Another alien, a thin reptilian creature with sharp, glinting teeth, hissed with amusement. "Perhaps they think if they paint flames on the side of their ships, they'll go faster." Laughter erupted again, louder this time. Even some of the more neutral species couldn't resist chuckling. Seated among the humans was Captain Elias Grant, leader of Earth's delegation. His face remained calm, but his knuckles whitened as he gripped the table. The mockery was nothing new. Humanity had grown used to being underestimated. High Chancellor Vorin raised his hand, silencing the room. "Let us not dismiss Earth so quickly," he said, though his tone carried little sincerity. "The Council believes in giving every species a chance to prove themselves, within reason." A large holographic display flickered to life in the center of the room, showing a list of records held by the galaxy's most advanced starship manufacturers. The fastest recorded speed was highlighted in bright blue. "This," Vorin continued, "is the current record for interstellar travel held by the Zirian Empire. No ship has surpassed it for over 50 years. Any species wishing to join the Advanced Starship League must produce a vessel capable of exceeding this speed in a controlled flight." The room fell silent for a brief moment, and then the murmuring began again. The record was legendary. Even the most advanced civilizations had struggled to come close. Vorin's eyes flicked to Captain Grant. "Earth, if you wish to apply for membership, you must break this record within one standard galactic year." Captain Grant met Vorin's gaze with unwavering determination. "We accept the challenge." The room burst into chaos. Delegates whispered furiously to one another, some shaking their heads in disbelief. A small, round alien seated beside Vorin laughed so hard that his tentacles trembled. Vorin raised an eyebrow. "Are you certain, Captain Grant? Perhaps it would be wise to reconsider. Failing such a task would not only disqualify your application, but also damage Earth's reputation within the Council." Grant stood, his voice steady. "We understand the risks, Chancellor, but we believe in our engineers and scientists. Humanity doesn't back down from a challenge." Vorin's smile didn't fade, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes. Curiosity, perhaps. "Very well. The Council will observe Earth's progress with great interest." As the session ended, the human delegation filed out of the chamber. Outside the Great Hall, Grant and his team gathered in a quiet corner. A younger officer, Lieutenant Reyna, shook her head in disbelief. "Sir, are we really going through with this? That speed record is ridiculous. We'd need a miracle to break it." Grant smiled faintly. "Not a miracle, just hard work and innovation." "But the Council thinks we're a joke," Reyna insisted. "They don't believe we can do it." "That's exactly why we have to," Grant replied. "Let them laugh. By the time this is over, they'll be the ones in shock." Far above Earth's skies, in hidden shipyards and secret labs, Humanity's greatest minds were already working on the project that would shake the galaxy. The Aurora Velocity, a name whispered among Earth's brightest engineers, was no ordinary starship. Little did the Galactic Council know, humanity wasn't just chasing the record. They were preparing to leave the galaxy in awe. Earth's bold response. The announcement came not through a grand ceremony or a dramatic broadcast, but through a simple, direct transmission. A single line of text appeared on the Galactic Council's network, glowing faintly in the display rooms of every major civilization. Earth accepts the challenge. It was brief, almost understated, yet it rippled through the galaxy like a shockwave. The message lingered on every screen for several minutes before vanishing. For a moment, there was silence. And then, across countless worlds, the laughter began. In the orbital cities of the Xerian Empire, where ships larger than continents drifted lazily against the stars, nobles sipped glowing drinks and chuckled at humanity's audacity. On the ocean planets of the Threx Dominion, bioluminescent beings exchanged amused clicks and hums. Even in the shadowy enclaves of the Ral Quinn, where few ever laughed, there was quiet, sardonic amusement. Humanity, it seemed, had become the galaxy's entertainment. But back on Earth, the reaction was far different. In the depths of the Lunar Development Complex, beneath thick layers of reinforced titanium, Earth's top engineers and scientists gathered in a secured briefing room. The mood was heavy with tension. A holographic display of the current galactic speed record hovered above the center table, rotating slowly. Captain Elias Grant stood at the head, arms crossed as he studied the impossible numbers. "This isn't a game," Grant began, his voice cutting through the murmurs. "The Council thinks we're doing this for show. They expect us to try and fail." His gaze shifted around the room, landing on each face. "They're wrong." A young scientist named Dr. Vance spoke up hesitantly. "Sir, with all due respect, the technology we need doesn't exist. The fastest engine we've developed can barely reach half that speed. We'd need a complete breakthrough, the leap, not a step." Grant smiled faintly. "Good. That's exactly what I want. A leap forward." There was silence as the word settled. A soft beep sounded from the far end of the room. An older woman with graying hair and sharp eyes, Dr. Marin, head of Earth's Starship initiative, leaned forward, typing into a control panel. "I've been running simulations for weeks," she said without looking up. "Theoretically, there's a chance. A slim one." A hologram of a sleek, unfinished starship materialized beside the record display. Unlike Earth's current fleet, this design was long, streamlined, and strange, almost alien in appearance. Its hull shimmered faintly, as if light bent around it unnaturally. "We call this project Aurora Velocity," Dr. Marin continued. "It's still in early development, but if we can complete it in time, this ship could potentially match the speed of the Xerians." Lieutenant Reyna, standing near the back, frowned. "Match? I thought we were supposed to break the record, not tie it." Dr. Marin's eyes gleamed. "Breaking it is the easy part." Heads turned toward her, confused. Grant's faint smile widened. "Explain." Marin pressed a button, and the display shifted. The Aurora Velocity's blueprints expanded, revealing a hidden section deep within its core. Lines of glowing text scrolled rapidly beside it. "This," Marin said, "is the dark light drive. It's not just an engine. It's a new way of bending space. We've been developing it in secret for years, reverse engineering scraps from derelict alien ships we found at the edges of the solar system. If it works, we won't just break the record, we'll shatter it." The room fell into stunned silence. Captain Grant stepped forward, studying the plans with narrowed eyes. "How long until it's operational?" Marin hesitated. "If we focus all resources on this project, 6 months, maybe 7. But that's under perfect conditions." Grant straightened. "You have 5. Marin blinked. "Sir, that's not." "It's not impossible," Grant interrupted firmly. "Nothing is. We either succeed, or we let the galaxy laugh at us for the next century. I know which option I prefer." The room remained quiet, but something shifted. A flicker of excitement spread through the crowd, faint but growing. Grant's voice softened slightly, but the steel remained. "We've been underestimated before. Humanity isn't the strongest, the largest, or the most advanced species out there, but we are the most stubborn. Let the Council laugh now. In 5 months, they won't be laughing anymore." The meeting concluded with quiet determination. Teams were formed, and production of the Aurora Velocity accelerated overnight. Hidden beneath Earth's surface and within orbital shipyards, thousands of engineers and workers poured every ounce of effort into the project. Rumors spread quickly across the galactic networks. Some species dismissed it as human bravado. Others watched carefully, curious to see how far Earth would go. But there were a few, scattered among the stars, who felt uneasy. They knew that humans, when pushed to the edge, had a habit of doing the impossible. And deep in the heart of the Aurora Velocity, something truly impossible was beginning to take shape. The test flight's countdown. The countdown to the test flight was set. 30 days. Across Earth and its colonies, the announcement spread like wildfire. News stations buzzed with speculation, while debates flared across digital networks. Could humanity really pull this off? The skeptics were loud, but beneath their doubts, hope simmered. In hidden shipyards above Mars, the Aurora Velocity hung suspended in the docking bay, a sleek dagger against the dark expanse of space. Its silver hull pulsed faintly with energy as engineers in exosuits swarmed around it, making final adjustments. At the heart of the chaos stood Captain Elias Grant. He stood at the observation deck, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the Starship like a sculptor inspecting a masterpiece. The weight of expectation pressed heavily on his shoulders, but his expression remained calm, resolute. Lieutenant Reyna approached quietly, her eyes flicking nervously toward the ship. "She's something else," Reyna admitted. "Doesn't even look like one of ours." "That's because she's not," Grant replied without looking away. "She's the next step forward. Faster, stronger, and unlike anything the galaxy has seen before." Reyna shifted uneasily. "Sir, I've been monitoring the Council's channels. They're doubling down. Some of the Xerians are already mocking the test flight, saying we'll blow ourselves up before we even break orbit." Grant smiled faintly. "Good. Let them watch. I want every eye in the galaxy on us when we launch." Reyna hesitated. "You really think we can beat their record, sir?" Grant turned to face her, his gaze steady. "I don't think, Lieutenant. I know. 15 days until launch." The Aurora Velocity was now complete, a fusion of human engineering and alien technology. Its sleek design minimized drag in atmospheric conditions and bent space more efficiently in vacuum. The most advanced sensors and weapon systems humanity had ever developed lay embedded beneath its hull, though no one expected to need them for the flight. The true marvel lay deep within its core, the dark light drive. Few outside the project's inner circle even understood how it worked. To the untrained eye, it appeared as a swirling orb of compressed starlight, suspended within a containment field. But those who built it knew better. The drive didn't just propel the ship, it folded space around it, allowing the Aurora Velocity to skip through the galaxy like a stone across water. Dr. Marin, head of the engineering team, stood beside Grant in the control room, watching the final diagnostics scroll across the screen. "The drive is stable," she reported. "But this is uncharted territory. If something goes wrong during the flight—" "It won't," Grant interrupted gently. Marin shot him a sideways glance. "Confidence is good, Captain. Arrogance isn't." Grant chuckled. "I'm not being arrogant, Doctor. I just trust our people. We've come too far to fail now." Marin sighed, but a small smile tugged at her lips. "Let's hope you're right." 7 days until launch. The Galactic Council issued an official statement. "The Council acknowledges Earth's upcoming test flight. We wish them luck." The message dripped with thinly veiled condescension. Alien commentators dissected every word, reading between the lines. The consensus was clear. The Council didn't expect humanity to succeed. On Zirian broadcast channels, holographic comedians mocked the Aurora Velocity, depicting it as a clunky, unstable ship held together by duct tape and dreams. Grant watched one of the broadcasts with quiet amusement. "Should I shut it off, sir?" Reyna asked, frowning at the screen. "No," Grant said, leaning back in his chair. "Let it play. I want the crew to see it." Reyna's eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because," Grant said, "when we prove them wrong, I want them to remember this moment. One day, until launch." The docking bay was quiet, filled only with the low hum of machinery. Crew members made their way aboard the Aurora Velocity, their movements precise but silent. Excitement mingled with tension, each person acutely aware of the importance of what lay ahead. Grant stood at the base of the boarding ramp, addressing the assembled crew. "Tomorrow, we make history," he said simply. "The galaxy thinks this is a joke. They expect us to fail, but we know better. This ship, our ship, represents everything humanity stands for: resilience, ingenuity, and the refusal to accept limits." He paused, letting his words settle. "They called us the weakest species, the slowest. They laughed at us. But tomorrow, we prove that humanity doesn't just keep up. We lead." The crew responded with silent nods. As they boarded the ship, Grant lingered for a moment, staring out into the vastness of space. Somewhere, beyond the stars, the Zirians and the rest of the Council watched and waited for humanity to stumble. Grant's eyes narrowed. Let them watch. Liftoff and the unexpected. The day of the test flight arrived beneath the watchful gaze of the entire galaxy. From orbiting stations and planets light years away, alien dignitaries, scientists, and ordinary citizens tuned in to the live broadcast. The Aurora Velocity sat on the edge of Earth's largest orbital dock, gleaming under the artificial lights. The sleek, silver Starship looked almost out of place among the bulkier human vessels, like a predatory bird ready to take flight. In the command center overlooking the docking bay, Captain Elias Grant stood with his hands clasped behind his back, staring at the ship through reinforced glass. "All systems green," Lieutenant Reyna reported from her station. Her voice was calm, but Grant could sense the tightness beneath it. Even the most seasoned officers felt the weight of this moment. "Crew aboard," Grant asked without turning. "Final checks underway, sir," Reyna confirmed. Behind them, Dr. Marin stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the Aurora Velocity's internal systems. The core of the ship, the dark light drive, hummed softly, its reading stable but unreadable to the alien spectators watching from afar. "Any word from the Council?" Grant asked. Marin smirked. "They issued another statement this morning. Wished us luck again." Grant chuckled. "They're expecting fireworks." "Oh, they'll get fireworks," Marin muttered under her breath. Grant turned to his crew, his gaze sweeping the room. "Open the public channel. Let them hear this." Reyna pressed a button, and a soft chime echoed across the command center. A green light flickered on the display, indicating the feed was now live across the galactic network. Billions of eyes, and more than a few skeptical alien dignitaries, were now watching. Grant cleared his throat. "This is Captain Elias Grant of the Aurora Velocity. Today, humanity stands at the edge of something new. For too long, we've been the underdogs, the species everyone doubted. They said we were slow, primitive, but we have something the rest of the galaxy underestimated: determination, creativity, a refusal to quit." He glanced briefly at the holographic timer ticking down. "In 1 hour, this ship will launch. And when it does, the galaxy will know one thing: humanity doesn't just reach for the stars. We catch them." The public channel closed, and silence filled the room. Reyna exhaled softly. "Nice speech, sir. Let's hope the ship agrees with you. Grant allowed himself a small smile. She'll hold. 30 minutes to launch. The Aurora Velocity's engines began to warm up, faint trails of blue light dancing along the ship's hull. Technicians in the control room monitored every fluctuation, noting even the smallest spike. The dark light drive was a marvel of engineering, but it was untested in real space. Dr. Marin's fingers hovered over her console, ready to shut it down at the first sign of instability. Drive output at 90%, Rayna reported. Hold it steady, Marin instructed. If we push it too soon, the entire thing could implode. Grant watched quietly as the energy readings climbed, inching closer to maximum capacity. The entire galaxy was watching, waiting for a single misstep. 10 minutes to launch. Suddenly, a soft alarm blared across the command center. Drive fluctuation detected, Rayna announced, her tone shifting from calm to concerned. What's the source? Grant asked, moving toward her station. Rayna's fingers danced across the console. Unclear. There's a slight feedback loop in the core. Nothing dangerous yet, but if it spikes during acceleration. Shut it down if necessary, Grant ordered. I won't risk the ship. Marin frowned, tapping at her screen. No, don't touch it yet. Grant arched a brow. Explain. Marin's eyes narrowed as she examined the data. The drive isn't malfunctioning. It's adapting. It's trying to stabilize itself, almost like it's learning. We've never seen this before because it's never run this long under real conditions. Grant leaned over her shoulder. The drive readings shifted subtly, as if compensating for some unseen pressure. You're saying it's alive? Rayna asked, her voice uncertain. Not alive, Marin corrected, but close enough. The drive was designed to be flexible. If we let it continue, it might stabilize on its own. Grant considered the risk. Every instinct told him to proceed, but the weight of billions of lives watching kept him grounded. Fine, Grant said at last. Monitor it closely. The moment it spikes too high, shut it down. Liftoff. As the final seconds counted down, the engines roared to life. The docking clamps released, and the Aurora Velocity drifted forward, slowly gaining momentum as it cleared the orbital station. Inside the ship, the crew sat in tense silence. The acceleration felt different from any other vessel, smoother, as if the ship itself was eager to prove its worth. Entering hyperspeed phase, the pilot announced over the comms, activating dark light drive in 3, 2, 1. A burst of light erupted from the rear of the ship, distorting the space around it. On the galactic broadcast, the Aurora Velocity vanished from view, leaving only a faint, glowing trail. For several seconds, the galaxy held its breath. Then, a new signal appeared, far beyond the designated speed checkpoint. The Aurora Velocity had not just broken the record. It had shattered it by an impossible margin. In the silent Galactic Council chamber, High Chancellor Vorin rose slowly, his expression unreadable as he stared at the data streaming across his console. One of his advisors leaned closer, whispering in disbelief. This can't be right. No species has ever reached those speeds. Vorin's gaze remained fixed on the screen. They just did. Humanity's secret weapon. The moment the Aurora Velocity disappeared into the void, the galaxy erupted into chaos. Across hundreds of alien worlds, disbelief turned into frantic debate. Broadcast commentators scrambled for explanations, while scientists from the Zirian Empire and Threx Dominion demanded to see the data again. Some claimed it was a trick, an elaborate human illusion to deceive the Council. Others insisted there had been a malfunction. But as the Aurora Velocity reappeared at the designated endpoint, a full 2 light-years beyond the finish line, the truth became undeniable. Humanity had done the impossible. Aboard the Aurora Velocity, inside the Starship, the crew sat in stunned silence. Even the hum of the engines seemed softer, as if the dark light drive itself was catching its breath. Lieutenant Rayna unstrapped herself from the seat, blinking at the display. We overshot. By how much? The pilot whistled under his breath. About 20 light minutes. We barely grazed the target coordinates. If I hadn't disengaged the drive, we might have skipped halfway across the galaxy. Captain Grant leaned back in his chair, his eyes locked on the star-speckled view outside the cockpit. I told you this ship could do it. His voice was calm, but even he couldn't hide the flicker of surprise in his eyes. Dr. Marin's voice crackled over the comms from engineering. Captain, you might want to get down here. Grant exchanged a glance with Reyna before heading toward the lower decks. As he stepped into the engineering bay, he was greeted by the sight of the dark light drive, still glowing faintly in its containment field. But something had changed. The swirling light at the heart of the drive moved in strange patterns, faster than before, almost as if the drive had evolved. Marin stood with her arms crossed, eyes narrowed at the readings. I think we just witnessed the first hyper-adaptation in recorded history. Grant arched a brow. Explain it to me like I don't have 3 science degrees. Marin smirked. The drive didn't just work, it learned. Every calculation it made during the jump allowed it to refine itself in real time. The next time we activate it, it could be even faster. Grant's expression darkened slightly. How much faster? Marin hesitated. We're talking about speeds that could bypass standard navigation protocols. We might be able to cross the galaxy in hours, maybe minutes, but the more it learns, the harder it'll be to control. If we're not careful, this thing could jump us somewhere outside mapped space. Grant glanced at the drive, his mind racing. The potential was staggering and dangerous. Can we limit its growth? Grant asked. Maybe, Marin replied. But doing that means halting the very thing that makes it unique. The Council has no technology like this. If we let it evolve freely, humanity won't just have the fastest ship. We'll have the most advanced piece of technology in the galaxy. Grant was silent for a moment, weighing the risks. Then he smiled faintly. Let it grow. We'll adapt with it. Marin's eyes flickered with unease, but she nodded. Your call, Captain. Just remember, if the Council finds out what this drive really is, they won't just challenge us. They'll try to take it. Grant's gaze hardened. They can try. Galactic Council Chamber, 1 week later. The chamber was unusually quiet. The holographic footage of the Aurora Velocity's flight played on a loop at the center of the room, the data stream scrolling faster than most delegates could read. High Chancellor Vorin sat at the head of the council, his fingers steepled in front of him as he studied the display. Finally, he spoke. Earth's application to the advanced Starship has been reviewed. Whispers rippled through the chamber. We cannot deny what we've seen. Humanity's vessel not only surpassed the required speed, it redefined the limitations of Starship technology. As of today, Earth is hereby granted membership into the League. The human delegation, led by Captain Grant, sat quietly, though a flicker of triumph passed through their ranks. But Vorin wasn't finished. However, Vorin added, his gaze locking onto Grant, the Council requests further inspection of the Aurora Velocity. We believe there may be elements of the drive that warrant closer examination. Grant's eyes narrowed slightly, but he smiled politely. Of course, Chancellor. We'd be happy to provide schematics for review. Vorin's gaze lingered for a moment, as if searching for deception, but he nodded. See that you do. This technology could benefit the entire galaxy. Grant simply nodded. We'll share what we can. But as the meeting concluded and the human delegation left the chamber, Grant leaned closer to Reyna. Make sure the real schematics are locked down. What the Council gets will be selectively edited. Reyna smirked. Of course, sir. Wouldn't want them getting too curious. Aboard the Aurora Velocity. Later that night, Grant stood alone on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. He could feel it, the dark light drive thrumming faintly below, almost like a living heart. Humanity had taken the first step, but this was only the beginning. Somewhere in the galaxy, other species were already working to match what Earth had achieved. But Grant knew the truth. They were already too late. The Galactic Council's reaction. The Council's official statement was polite, measured, almost sterile. But behind closed doors, chaos erupted. In private chambers hidden beneath the grand halls of the Galactic Council, delegates from the most powerful species gathered in secrecy. The circular room, normally reserved for quiet deliberations, was filled with raised voices and pointed accusations. A hologram of the Aurora Velocity's flight looped silently in the center of the chamber. The data spoke louder than any words could. "No species advances this quickly," hissed Lord Drenner, a towering Zurian with jet-black scales that shimmered faintly under the chamber's light. His clawed hand gestured toward the display. Even the Threx Dominion took centuries to reach this level of propulsion. Humans, they've barely had interstellar travel for 2 decades. A slender Threx delegate, his skin bioluminescent in shades of blue, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "Perhaps they were fortunate," he offered. Drenner's eyes narrowed. "There is no such thing as luck in ship design. They're hiding something." Across the table, Chancellor Vorin remained silent, his gaze fixed on the hologram. Unlike the other delegates, he had not spoken since the meeting began. His expression remained unreadable. Finally, Vorin raised a hand, and the chamber fell into a tense silence. "Fortunate or not," Vorin said calmly, "the fact remains. Earth succeeded. Publicly, we've acknowledged their achievement. But privately," his eyes flickered to Drenner, "I agree. This technology surpasses what should be possible." Drenner leaned forward. "Then authorize a full investigation. If the humans refuse, we blockade their star system until they comply." A low murmur of unease rippled through the chamber. The idea of a blockade, an act of war, even if unspoken, was dangerous. The Threx delegate clicked his mandibles once more. "A blockade will draw too much attention. The galaxy watches Earth now. They are the underdog. If we are seen as aggressors, it will damage our position." "Then what do you suggest?" Drenner growled. "Patience," Vorin interrupted. His tone was soft, but it carried the weight of authority. "We will not act hastily. Humanity is clever, but they are not invincible. Let them grow comfortable with their success. They will show their hand eventually. And when they do," a faint smile tugged at the corner of Vorin's lips, "we will be ready." Aboard the Aurora Velocity, unaware of the growing tension within the Council, Captain Grant stood at the helm of the Aurora Velocity, watching as the ship cruised through the outer edges of the solar system. Stars drifted lazily past the observation windows, each one a reminder of how much further humanity could go. Reyna's voice crackled over the comms. "Captain, message from Earth Command. They're patching it through to you directly." Grant stepped into the comms room, the holographic screen flickering to life. Admiral Hayes, a stern-looking man with silver hair cropped close to his head, appeared. "Captain Grant," Hayes greeted, his tone warm but professional. "Congratulations on the flight. Earth is buzzing." Grant allowed himself a small smile. "Good to hear, sir. What's the word from the Council?" Hayes' expression darkened slightly. "They approved our membership to the Advanced Starship League, but not without suspicion. We intercepted chatter. Several high-ranking delegates are convinced we're hiding the true nature of the Dark Light Drive." Grant's eyes narrowed. "They're not wrong." Hayes sighed. "I understand the decision to hold back the full schematics, but this is dangerous ground, Captain. If they decide we're a threat—" "They already do," Grant interrupted. "Whether we share the drive or not won't change that. The moment we surpassed their expectations, we became a target." Hayes nodded reluctantly. "I trust your judgment, Elias. Just be careful. If the Council feels threatened, they won't hesitate to act." Grant straightened. "Let them. We'll be ready." Galactic Council Observation Fleet. 2 weeks later. Far beyond the orbit of Mars, a small cluster of alien vessels drifted at the edges of the solar system. Officially, they were tasked with observing Earth's new Starship technology. Unofficially, they were spies, reporting every movement back to the Council. Inside one of the ships, a Xerian officer peered at the long-range scanner. "The humans have launched another test flight," the officer muttered, adjusting the controls. The aurora velocity was a faint blip on the screen, moving steadily toward the outer rim of the system. Suddenly, the blip flickered and vanished. "What the?" The officer frantically recalibrated the scanner. The ship's captain, a stern-looking Threx, stepped forward. "Report. The human ship, it's gone," the officer stammered. "It disappeared from our scanners entirely." The captain's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Impossible. No ship can cloak at hyperspeed." The officer opened his mouth to respond when the aurora velocity reappeared directly behind their vessel. An alarm blared as the human starship passed them at speeds their scanners struggled to calculate. The ship flickered like a ghost, vanishing and reappearing along unpredictable flight paths. "It's toying with us," the officer whispered. The captain's eyes narrowed. "No, it's sending a message." "Earth, secure briefing room." Captain Grant sat across from Admiral Hayes, the hologram of the alien observation fleet hovering between them. "They've been watching," Grant said quietly. "I decided to let them see what we're capable of." Hayes leaned back, studying the hologram. "You risk provoking them, Elias." Grant smiled faintly. "Good. Let them feel nervous. We're not just playing catch-up anymore. Humanity leads the race now." Hayes exhaled softly, but there was pride in his eyes. "Let's hope you're right. Because if you're wrong, the entire galaxy will come knocking." Grant's gaze hardened. "Then we'll answer the door." Humanity's triumph. The stars seemed brighter from the observation deck of the aurora velocity. The faint hum of the ship's systems pulsed beneath Captain Elias Grant's boots as he stood alone, gazing out into the endless void. A single message had changed everything. Earth, accepted into the advanced Starship League. Those words, displayed across the galactic network, sent shockwaves through every corner of known space. Humanity had not only broken the speed record, they shattered the very idea of galactic hierarchy. And the galaxy wasn't ready for it. Earth, global celebration. Cities across Earth erupted in celebration the moment the announcement went public. Massive holograms of the aurora velocity shimmered in the skies above New York, Tokyo, and Nairobi. Fireworks lit the night, and crowds gathered beneath enormous screens to watch replays of the historic flight. In the streets, chants echoed. "Humanity leads. To the stars and beyond." The underdog species of the galaxy had done the impossible. But in the shadows, not everyone celebrated. Hidden Galactic Council chamber. Xerian Empire. Lord Drenner stood in front of a dimly lit council room, watching the endless loop of the aurora velocity's test flight. His claws tapped rhythmically against the stone table. The Threx representative shifted uncomfortably. "We underestimated them." Drenner's black eyes narrowed. "No, we allowed them to surprise us. That will not happen again." The hologram flickered, showing Captain Grant standing at the helm of the aurora velocity, addressing the press after the flight. "This is just the beginning," Grant had said, his voice calm but unwavering. "Humanity isn't racing to catch up anymore. We're here to lead." Drenner bared his fangs. "He's dangerous." Chancellor Vorin, seated in the corner of the room, finally spoke. "Grant isn't dangerous. His ship is. The dark light drive changes everything. If humanity controls this technology, it will reshape the balance of power." Drenner's gaze darkened. "Then we must take it." Vorin's eyes flickered with amusement. "Stealing from humanity. Have you learned nothing? They're stubborn, resilient, and creative. If we attempt to seize the drive by force, we'll spark a war. Then what do you suggest?" Vorin leaned forward, his voice cold and precise. "We don't take the technology. We take him." Aboard the aurora velocity. 2 weeks later, Grant felt the weight of every decision pressing down on him as he stood in the briefing room. The celebrations on Earth had quieted, but the political games were just beginning. Dr. Marin stood at the far end of the table, scrolling through the latest sensor data. "They're still watching us," she muttered. "Zirian spy vessels, Threx cloaked frigates. Even the Ralquin are sending out probes to track our movements." Grant's jaw tightened. They won't stop. Reyna, seated near the doorway, leaned back in her chair. "Let them watch. They can't replicate the drive. Even if they stole our blueprints, it wouldn't matter. The dark light drive isn't just a machine." Grant nodded. "It's evolving with the ship. They can't steal something that isn't finished growing." Marin glanced at Grant. "Still, we can't ignore the risk. We're leaders now. That makes us targets." Grant met her gaze. "Then we'll stay ahead. We aren't slowing down." Galactic Press Conference. Advanced Starship Lee Headquarters. It wasn't often that humanity stood at the center of galactic attention. Cameras from hundreds of worlds hovered in the air, broadcasting live to billions. Grant stood at the podium, flanked by Admiral Hayes and Earth's ambassador to the Council. The murmurs of alien reporters filled the chamber until Grant stepped forward. The room fell silent. 2 months ago, Grant began, humanity was laughed at, mocked as the slowest species in the galaxy. We were told we couldn't keep up, that we were too late to join the leaders of the interstellar community. He paused, letting his words linger. But humanity has a habit of defying expectations. When the galaxy doubted us, we pushed harder. We didn't just meet the standard. We set a new one. A hologram behind him shifted, replaying the moment the aurora velocity broke the galactic speed record, surpassing the checkpoint by light years. Grant's voice hardened. "This isn't about pride. This is about progress. Every species, no matter how small, deserves the chance to shape their destiny among the stars. Humanity will not hoard this technology. But we will lead the way." A ripple of conversation swept through the crowd. Some delegates nodded in quiet approval. Others glared, sensing the shift in galactic power. As Grant stepped back from the podium, reporters bombarded him with questions. "Captain Grant, will Earth share the dark light drive schematics? Is it true that human ships have now surpassed Zirian warships in speed? Does humanity seek to replace the current galactic leadership?" Grant smiled faintly, answering the final question directly. "Humanity isn't here to replace anyone. But if the galaxy is heading somewhere new, we'll lead the way. High orbit, outer rim of Earth's solar system." As the aurora velocity soared silently through the vastness of space, Captain Grant stood once more at the observation deck. Reyna joined him, arms crossed as she watched the stars drift by. "Think they'll come for us?" she asked quietly. "They already are," Grant replied. "But it doesn't matter. We're ready." Reyna smirked. "I hope so. I'd hate to break the galaxy's heart by leaving them in the dust again." Grant chuckled. "That's the plan." As the aurora velocity accelerated, the stars stretched into lines of light. And for the first time in history, humanity wasn't chasing anyone. They were leading the charge.